All right, welcome to 1 Mile, One Veteran's first ever live stream event. Thank you for joining us, and for those of you that have been following the 1 Mile, One Veteran podcast for the last 2 years, you know that we've been on quite a journey. It's had its ups, its downs, and I thank you all for sticking around as we go through it. Um, during this journey, Leanne and I have learned a ton. We've talked to so many fantastic, amazing guests on the podcast that have taught us so much, and the knowledge that they have had, um, the knowledge that they have passed on to us has been so helpful uh, in helping me reach a lot of my personal goals, whether it's making sure that we're getting the word out to end veteran suicide, or just be a helpful friend. Working on some technical issues. This is the joy of working our first ever live stream. So if you're having trouble connecting, please let me know and I will work the back end. This is a project, as you know, Leanne does a fantastic job of producing our podcast, and I wanted to try to do this kind of on my own and see where we go with it. This part of the journey, for those of you that don't know, I have been on a weight loss and fitness journey for the last year and a half. About a year ago, at this point a year ago, I was 240 pounds pushing on it. I was very uncomfortable. My back injury and shoulder injury was giving me a lot of pain, and I was also feeling quite overwhelmed with life in general. My depression and PTSD symptoms were at an all-time high, but my spirits were very, very hopeful because I had a plan to go through, and that plan started with just walking a mile a day. Now here we are a year later, and I have managed to lose about 60 pounds. I'm setting personal best records on my runs, pull-ups, push-ups, and fitness journey. But since March, I've kind of hit a bit of a plateau. And that is where I reached back out to one of my good friends, Aleem Shabazz. He runs Strong Fitness, Big Tire Boot Camp out in Eva, out here in Hawaii at the AmVet Center in Eva. And he has agreed to help coach and get me to the next plateau, because my ultimate goal is to see what it feels like to be 150 to 155 pounds, see what it feels like to run at that level, see what it feels like to do calisthenic movements, see if my joints and my back pain start to lessen a bit more. And that's about 30 pounds from where I'm currently staying. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring Aleem in on our interview, because he has quite the system. Aleem, thank you so much for joining me here on the 1 Mile, One Veteran live stream event.
Hey, Danny. It's an honor to be here. This is exciting. So welcome and thank you.
Absolutely. You were the first in-person interview that we did out there at the AmVet Center, and we had a lot of planes flying overhead. You were one of our first guests. I think you were within the first 4 episodes. For those of you that don't remember Aleem's journey, please go check that out on the 1 Mile, One Veteran podcast. Hear his story. He's got a lot more knowledge since then, and a lot more to pass on. But welcome to our first live stream event, and I'm excited to embark upon this journey with you over the next couple of months.
Yeah, outstanding. I mean, your journey already, has so much to kind of pull from as far as just value and life lessons. And hats off to you for being so transparent and being willing to not just go on the journey, but being willing to share that with others. Because I know you've been getting some, positive inquiries about, what you've been doing and what you've been, the results that you've been getting. And so, we both kind of talked about this beforehand, and serving others comes in many different forms. And, with mental health awareness and then your physical health as well, there's a lot of people out there who are struggling. And so we both agreed that, hey, if we can help a few people or even one person with this journey and have them get some insights, then that is definitely a win. So kudos to you on your journey, and then also kudos for what you're trying to, continue to serve and help those who are maybe not so far along on their journey yet as you are.
Absolutely. This is quite an honor, and I appreciate you bringing up the whole fact that this physical journey is more so about the. I apologize for our Instagram live viewers. What they're seeing is a split screen, so we're getting like the shoulders. I don't know if I can adjust that. So hopefully, you're gonna catch the audio. We are on YouTube live as well as our Facebook account. So if you are joining us from your Instagram account and you want a better view of the beautiful Aleem, one, I'll show you right here, and two, go check us out if you're looking for the split screen action for me and Aleem. But no, this has been such a great journey for me, because it's really been about my mental health journey more than it's been about the physical journey. The physical fitness can come and go. We can suffer injuries. We can gain weight. We can get stressed out and stuff like that. But the mental health journey was what the real struggle was. And about a year ago, I wanted to prepare for the Marine Corps marathon while we were in Greece. And I went out on that first training run and realized I couldn't run up hills. My hip started hurting so bad. And so I actually had to take a step back and start training. I kind of had to humble myself and go, okay, like I've completed some marathons in the past, but now I actually have to take a step back and start my marathon training from ground zero. And that's walking. Like just being able to walk at my weight of almost 240 pounds. And that's really where I had started. And then once I committed to walking a mile a day, that's where my mental health journey really started to take effect and begin the rest of the journey.
Nice. And I think a nice place to start is, we're obviously here. We're going to pick up with a consult. So the premise of this discussion is to give transparency both on the client side and the coaching side when we're doing a to Z intake consultation. First of all, deciding if it's a good fit for either one of us, and then also what the day-to-day and week-to-week and month-to-month interactions look like. But it'd be great if we could just bring all the viewers up to speed, and if you could just kind of, give us the abbreviated version of how we even got here, like what, because the personal journey you took included some significant lifestyle changes while traveling, which in and of itself is a whole nother, animal, and you were still able to get those. So, if you're okay, why don't you kind of share with everyone all the things you've done prior to this call to get to where you were, to get from the 200 plus down to the 180, and, kind of your philosophy and how that worked for you.
Yeah, so last year I was sitting in Greece. Like I had mentioned, I failed to complete a training run for my marathon and knew that I needed to kind of re-humble myself and reintroduce myself to starting at the basics. And so what I did is I committed to doing a daily 20 minutes of light physical activity. And for me, that was walking. That's what our podcast, 1 Mile, 1 Veteran, was all about, was encouraging people to just get out, experience some sunlight, start to change their moods. And then after that, I started making my own foods. I wanted to do that consistently. So while we were in Greece, we only ate out once or twice a week. There was no more than twice a week that we decided to eat out, but the rest of our food was going to be made at home. I wasn't necessarily paying attention to the quantities. I wasn't necessarily paying attention to the qualities, but I was starting to do things that showed that I was being consistent in my daily rituals, which was 20 minutes of light physical activity and making my own foods. And then when we came back to the States, that began to shift a little bit more, and I started looking up what a person that stands at 5 foot 8 inches tall should weigh according to health experts. So I went to the American Heart Association's website as well as the American Athletic Department's website. I don't know the exact name of it, but they had both recommended that somebody standing at 5'8" should weigh somewhere between 145 and 160. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to being a 155 pound individual. I hadn't done that since I was 18 years old. Here I am pushing 40. I always thought it was going to be kind of like this impossible feat, but I set my mindset to do that. And so I developed a eating plan that allowed for the athletic activity that I wanted to do, as well as give me enough calories to be 155 pounds. It wasn't, hey, I'm going to do a drastic cut and I'm going to lose as much weight as possible and then figure out the meal plan. I was like, I'm going to develop a meal plan that I need to maintain when I'm 155 pounds and just start eating that. And that's what I did. The low hanging fruit, the pounds started coming right off. I was losing anywhere from 8 to 12 pounds a month. We went through the holidays, and what I had realized was once I started calling myself a 155-pound man, it really became easy. Like a 155-pound man doesn't eat this many calories in a day, and so I just wouldn't do that. If I had a burger, I wouldn't have fries. If I had fries, I wouldn't have dessert. Like it wasn't depriving myself of some of my favorite foods. It was just saying, hey, like I know the quantity that I need to consume. And as the weight came off, the physical activity naturally started to increase. I was able to walk further, and then I was able to start jogging, and then I didn't want to lose strength because I had been skinny fat by running in the past. Like I've been this weight before, but I've never had this little body fat at 18% right now. Like I'm from over 40% body fat to around 18% body fat as of today. And I've never been this lean and strong. And so like I just gradually started, doing as many push-ups as felt comfortable, running as long as it felt comfortable. If something didn't feel good, I didn't do it. And I, again, just showed myself like it didn't need to be a difficult transition. It just needed to be a consistent transition. And the biggest gains came, once I hit 200, the biggest body composition changed between 200 and 180. That's where the fat like really just trimmed off. My daily activities went from sitting around on the couch watching movies to going rock climbing at the gym with my wife, meeting new friends, doing things that are a little bit more outdoors. I mean, if you followed our journey on This Is Mayberry YouTube channel, you'll see like we were doing ice climbing and dog sledding and all sorts of fun winter activities in Canada before coming home to Hawaii. But, when we decided to make the transition back to Hawaii, we've been traveling again. And thank goodness I learned how to eat the way that I eat and have the level of activity that I have. Because the last 3 months, I haven't been as disciplined, but I've still been just as cognizant. So, like, my weight has been at a steady state for the last 3 months at 180, even though the body fat's still coming off.
That's awesome. And the reason I'm asking you to share that is exactly what any respectable coach, for myself, when I have a new client, the first thing is a discovery call, right? And so everything you just shared with us is something I would want to know because there isn't a one size fits all approach. And if you're dealing with a coach who thinks who there is a one size fits all approach, or if you're looking at stuff online, you might want to look the other way or look into it because there is not one linear path for every individual, and that's an important thing. And so why I'm asking Danny these questions, I need to assess a couple of things: is where has his journey brought him? Why is he struggling at this point? More importantly, where's his mind at? Where's his mindset at? And when someone comes and they're looking for a coaching, there's generally two types of clients. One who isn't doing anything, hasn't taken any steps. They just know that they're sick and tired of their present state, and they're looking for something to kind of get them started. The second type is someone like Danny who has already taken it upon themselves and they've started their journey, but perhaps they're hitting a wall or they're struggling and they've plateaued. The second type of client is actually will tend to be more successful, but the journey is going to be a little bit more detailed. The first type of client, you can pretty much do anything. Start walking, drink water, you'll see results. But the challenge with that first type of client is they haven't taken any type of dominance or responsibility for their own health. And what I mean by that is if they haven't even started to walk. So Danny and I both agree when we say the first step in any fitness journey is just go for a walk. Legitimately, it sounds cliche-ish, but it is probably the easiest, safest thing you can do. And if you can start to be consistent with just walking 1 day a week, then 2 days a week, then 3 days a week, what you're proving to yourself is you can stick with something, right? And so the important part there is you don't want to waste your own time. I don't want to waste my time or your money if you're hiring a coach. And so you do have to have some skin in the game. So in this situation, Danny has already demonstrated that he can be consistent. He is very self-aware of what seems to work for him, what doesn't seem to work for him, and the things that he enjoys. And actually, he has a breakthrough there. And the key breakthrough there was quality of life. So it went from being skinny fat, where his extra time went from sitting on the couch watching movies, to now breaking through to a new level of fitness that has basically unlocked new levels of energy, which has unlocked new levels of activity, which has unlocked the new communities of circles, right? So now he's rock climbing with his wife, with some friends, doing harder things, meeting new people. And so, as you can see, that why is now being connected with the fitness. There's a strong correlation. And so I always correlate your fitness journey as like the exercise, the nutrition, all of that. So let's just make an analogy. Let's say that people want to get in shape. Well, that's the vacation. That's you on the sandy beach in like Jamaica. Well, the journey, going to the gym, exercising, doing all these things, sleeping, drinking water, that's going to the airport, getting through TSA, getting your bags. Maybe your bags get lost, flying on a plane and it's crowded and going. So no one really cares about that. No one really wants to have to do all of that stuff, the travel part. They just want to be on the beach in Jamaica, i.e., be in shape. But the important part to navigate that component of the exercise and nutrition or whatever is having a strong why. So our goal isn't to you know have the details about all the things you need to do, which we will. It's continue to encourage you and remind you of, hey, you're doing this because, right? Because there will be times where you don't want to do it. There will be times you don't want to wake up. Everybody is human. And so that's the meaning, that's the reason why. So he has a very strong why. And when things get tough, not if, but when they do, we focus back on your why and your big purpose. And then we recalibrate to figure out, okay, this is what you set as important to you. We have to keep this in mind. We won't get caught in the weeds around like, well, you need one more rep or you need to eat this or whatever. That's, believe it or not, that's the how, but that's not your why. So if someone was reaching out to me for coaching, this is the type of conversation we would have. I need to know them as a person. I need to know their why. I need to know what motivates them. And believe it or not, about 40% of the clients I'll get on a call with, we end up determining we're not a good fit because, like I said, they may think they're ready, but they're just not. So I don't want to waste their time. They don't want to waste my time. I'll give them tools to move on and say, hey, why don't you try this for 1 or 2 months? If you can be consistent or if you can see some things, why don't we talk again? But that's a very important kind of coming to Jesus moment that you have to have with yourself, because the majority of people who start these journeys don't complete them, and then of the people who complete them in 2 to 3 years, they've either gone back to their original state or they are in a worse state. And so the goal is to not just get to your goal, but to then be able to maintain that for as long as possible through the elements of life: marriage, travel, divorce, new job, old job, retirement, injury. All of these things will in fact happen. And so that is ultimately the goal when you're talking about, can I get someone in shape? Absolutely. But more importantly, can that individual get themselves in shape when we're no longer in a relationship, stay in shape, and understand the principles and the why behind that? So I don't take that part lightly. And if Danny and I didn't know each other and we were on initial discovery call, from everything that he had said, I would definitely say, let's continue to move forward based on what he said. So that's kind of the insight. And I share that because Danny had asked me to kind of give, be transparent about what the coaching process looks like. So there's actually quite a bit of work up front before we actually lift one weight. It's kind of that analogy where he says, if you're given an hour to cut down a tree, let's spend 50 minutes sharpening our axe and 10 minutes cutting it down. So we do a lot of framework, we do a lot of background, we do a lot of testing, a lot of analysis before we physically lift a weight or tell you what to eat or any of that stuff. And if someone is telling you, eat this, work out like this, and they haven't discovered this about you, or they haven't taken the time to get to know you, or within 5 to 10 minutes or they're swearing up and down that this program is for you, I'm a little cautious about that because I've yet to see one approach work for every person.
And you and I have known each other now for over 2 years. We worked out pretty consistently for at least a year of that. So like you've gotten to know me pretty well. I've gotten to know you and come to trust you. And when people see you in real life, you're about 240, absolutely large individual. your goals and mine differ, but I trust you in this space because I see you taking people from all walks of life to reach their goals. And I have very specific goals that I want to be able to accomplish. Like, my goals isn't to get as big as possible. My goals is to, one, maintain good mental health through physical health as just a component of that. And then two, like, I have some injuries and disabilities from the military that have plagued me since my time in Iraq and Afghanistan, that, I'm kind of determined to hopefully strengthen some of these joints and some of these areas through body weight fitness. And so I would say, like, that's another component of the coach mentee relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. The next step, which it's kind of like that cooking show where they show you the cake mixing and then they magically pull it out the oven and fast forward. So it's what's called it's called an intake consultation. So there's a questionnaire that a client will fill out. So it goes a little bit deeper. And what Danny and I are going to do is kind of show you his responses and his questionnaire that he filled out. So after we've initiated contact, there's a questionnaire that basically is asking what are your goals? Tell me more about yourself or whatever. And then we're going to use that on that initial discovery call, and we're going to go over that. So that's kind of what I thought we could do today, is just review that call, or excuse me, review your answers, talk a little bit more in depth about them, and then we can actually look at what a plan might be. So he's got the questionnaire up here. And so of course, you've got your basic demographics, your first and last name, your age, where do you live, how'd you learn about the coaching program. Then we get into the meat and potatoes.
All
And
right.
it's basically, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say you guide me through this as we go through.
Okay, absolutely. So what are your two most important fitness goals right now? And Danny responded sustainability and body composition. And he did speak to that briefly when he was talking to us right now. So he's looking for longevity, long term, and he's looking at body composition. That simple word, body composition, is very important. So to explain what body composition is versus weight, your body composition is what you're composed of. So weight is composed of muscle, fat, water, and bone. So when you get on a scale, basically when people see a certain particular weight, they might get all bent out of shape. So we generally don't want to focus just on a particular weight, especially with women. We want to look at your body composition. So Danny just shared with us he had been at 40% body fat, and now he's around 18. And so in simple forms, what that means is, let's say you weigh 100 pounds. If you're 40% body fat, roughly 40 of those 100 pounds is body fat. And then if you're 18% body fat, roughly 18 pounds of that 100% or 100 pounds is body fat. So that's why you want to focus on your body composition. Now, the scale itself doesn't tell the whole tale. And the reason is, for the same amount of area, muscle weighs more than fat. So as you lose fat and potentially gain muscle, you could actually either be weight neutral or go up on the scale, but it doesn't mean that you've gotten fatter. And the other important part about body composition is, once you're over 30, preserving and gaining clean skeletal muscle is super, super important. This is how important muscle is. If you lost a pound of muscle and you gained a pound of fat, it's more detrimental to have lost that 1 pound of muscle than to have gained a pound of fat, because of all the metabolic benefits that muscle entails. And oftentimes I'll see clients who are what we call skinny fat, meaning they've done anaerobic activity and cardio extensively to lose quote unquote weight. So they've lost weight, but when we analyze where that weight came from, the majority of it came from sacrificing lean muscle. And then oftentimes their strength has diminished significantly, where even though they weighed more before, they're weaker now, and they find themselves in a situation where it's now even harder to gain the muscle than it was to lose the fat. So that's what we talked about as far as the most important fitness goals. Then we want to know, what's the number one thing holding you back from reaching these goals? So he says lack of motivation and knowledge. So I'm going to turn that over to Danny, and maybe he can elaborate a little bit more on those two.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I'll start with the knowledge portion. I don't know what I don't know. There's a lot of internet research that I can go on there and do, but the reality of it when it comes to fitness is I've only known my body type. I've only worked within my limitations and my own understanding. So when it comes to macros, when it comes to micronutrition, even, I can't necessarily always figure out what happens when I hit this plateau of 180 ish pounds. Even when I was training for marathons and Ironman, I still never dropped below this weight. Um, and then the motivation portion is, I'm very happy with my current fitness level. I'm very happy with where I'm at in life right now, as well as starting the new job, being back here in Hawaii. I'm motivated to go out and do different things, and so hitting the gym and eating the right foods uh, are harder priorities for me to commit to. Not that I'm not committed, but um, the distractions are coming easier to make excuses. And so for me, when I think of what can help motivate me, my wife gets me so far. But then when I surround myself with people like Aleem and the people out there at Big Tire Boot Camp, like I'm more motivated to stick to these goals.
That's awesome. And I think we hear a lot about these words being used interchangeably. You hear discipline, you hear motivation. And what I've learned over the years is that motivation is fleeting. It's a limited thing, right? We get motivated, we might see an Instagram post or something and we get excited and want to go to the gym. But that really doesn't get us the long haul. And then we have discipline. So we've even heard that where, oh, okay, well, discipline is just as important or more important than motivation because it's doing the things you need to do even when you don't want to do them. I've felt that there's value in both of those, but one thing I've actually think is more important than that, and again, I reserve the right to get smarter and change this, but as of now, I believe the standards really hold the goal. And so what I mean by that is beyond motivation and beyond discipline is the standards that we are going to set for ourselves and pretty much for all walks of life. But for this example, we're going to just use fitness. So in this example, we basically have to say, well, what are the standards that you as a client or you as an individual, Danny, are going to hold yourself to? And I can't come up with them for you. Like you've already told me your standard is you want to run a distance at a certain time, you want to be a certain weight. And so it's pretty black and white, right? You're going to set those standards. So you got standard A, standard B, standard C. It's just like when we're back in the military, you've got certain particular standards that have to be met. And then once those standards are set and both mutually agreed on, we can reflect on the actions that we're taking to determine, are these actions that we're doing helping to achieve or meet or exceed this standard? And in simple form, if it's not, we can throw that away, right? And so at that point, there really is no subjectivity at all. It's very, very objective because these are smart goals, they're mutually agreed on, and it's either we're doing something that's advancing us towards that or we're doing something that's not. And when we have that, it should never be emotional. It should never be a conflict between you and I. It should never be a personal thing because at that point, it's bigger than you and I. It's this standard that's been agreed upon and set. And that's something that I think once people figure out what is the standard you want, everything else can kind of fall in line to support that. The challenging part is I don't think many people have ever had to have framework around something like that to determine, like when you ask most people, what's your goal? Like, what's your fitness goal? You'll hear, oh, I want to get in shape, I want to lose weight. That's actually not a goal. Your goal is something like what you defined is my goal is to be able to get in shape to do blank by this date. That's a very attainable goal because you have an action, you have an actual event, and you have a timeline. But when you're just saying I want to get in shape, that's just perpetual, and it lends itself to a gray area where, well, what's the deadline? Well, what's your definition of in shape? Or so that's something that I challenge everyone, and you can do this. You don't need a coach for this. This is something you can just start with to say, hey, my standard is I want to be able to keep up with my kids when they're at soccer practice or whatever, and to do so, I am going to walk 4 miles per week, and that's going to be broken up into 1 mile 4 days a week at 4 p.m. And I plan to walk that mile in under 20 minutes, right? So now you have some pretty smart goals and some standards. And if you look at the end of the week and you haven't hit those, then you can assess, well, what got in my way from achieving this when I know I need to do this to get to my goal? But without that, there's a lot of exits that people can take. And then with those exits, and not having your feet held to the fire for accountability, there's a lot of room for missteps or for failures, unfortunately. So very, very thoughtful around that. Um, and then the knowledge piece, I agree with you. And I feel that, knowledge is perpetual, right? So even myself, I have coaches for different things. I'm constantly learning, constantly revising my knowledge base. Things are always changing. And I think that's a positive thing. So what's the main thing you struggle with when it comes to fitness? So pushing through intensity. Um, so we will talk about that, and intensity comes in different ways. But when we talk about the actual exercise program, that part we can address with various different approaches, even when you don't have someone who's there coaching you over your shoulder. Then the part of the questionnaire comes down to understanding what's the client's ability and willingness to work out. So I want to know how many days per week are they currently exercising right now. So Danny's doing something 5 days a week plus. Now, when we say exercising, doesn't mean you're always lifting weights or in the gym. This could be an activity like walking, getting out, rock climbing, hiking. Just how much exercise are you getting in per day or per week? And then how many days per week are you currently eating out? So 2 to 3. Do you consume alcoholic beverages regularly? No. And what do you do for work and how does it affect your journey? So his work changes, his schedule, um, regularly. It's frustrating because he feels like he can't always be consistent with his workouts. That is a very common response, especially in today's environment where there's a lot of high stress with work, a lot of variabilities in people's schedules. They also have families and other commitments, and being able to fit in your journey, fit in your fitness journey. So when we plan with the client, we're going to actually take that into consideration when we plan their their workout routine. So an example would be if Danny's working from 9 to 5, I'm not going to say, well, you need to be at the gym from 10 to 11. That clearly wouldn't make sense. I'm going to understand, well, what days of the week do you prefer to work out? And do you reasonably think you can get your workout in? And how long do you think you can work out? And then on top of that, well, what type of equipment do you have access to? Because if you're not going to work out in a gym and you're at home, we're going to schedule your workout based around the equipment you've got, potentially adding in some additional pieces that you might need for a home gym, but really customizing it to that individual so it can more likely fit into his schedule. Furthermore, we're going to also have 3 or 4 contingencies. So not only are we going to have a plan A, but just like in the military, you're going to have a plan B, plan C, plan D, and plan E. Because the goal is that no matter what happens, you'll have a plan for that situation or a backup plan. And that's the main thing is most people will get stuck or there'll be a hiccup or something will change and it throws things off and they don't have a backup plan or understand that still doing something is better than nothing and then they kind of stop. So
Now, sorry, I want to jump in here real quick because when it comes to potentially missing a workout, what do we do in those cases where it's like, hey, I wasn't able to get to it for 2 days, so now it's day three and I'm supposed to be on the next workout.
yeah, good question. Ideally, it's always the present's the best, right? So um, we try not to miss 2 in a row of anything. So if you miss one, don't let 2 days pass. It's a slippery slope. But even when it comes to a workout, so if I hear a client struggling with the workout, there's probably something there that we need to unpack if it's happened 2 days in a row. One day, possibly. 2 days, there's something more we got to look at because plan D is literally as soon as you get out of bed, hit the floor. So no matter where you are in the world, unless you're stationed up at the International Space Station, you're going to have 3 things. You're going to have the ground, your body, and gravity. And what I'm going to tell you is do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 flutter kicks, and then just, at minimum, you can do that every single day. And that's not ideal, but it definitely is better than nothing. But when I get a message that says, within 24 hours, I did not have enough time to at least do that, or I didn't get my workout in, we're jumping on a call or we're talking and I'm trying to figure out there's something else here that perhaps I overlooked or we didn't discuss that is now a barrier to your success. And we need to unpack this and address it and kill it before we let the third day come into play.
Perfect. Thanks, man. Sorry, just wanted to
No,
jump
no,
in there for that.
no, that's good. And then we talk about If accepted, how will joining the program change, help you reach your goals in life? So working with you on the video series will help me reach a goal I've only dreamed of and inspired. I want to know, you know, why is this important to you, right? Because one-on-one coaching is not cheap. It's an investment, right? But your health is the most valuable thing you have. So I need to know, why is this important to you? And so with that in mind, I'm getting a really good insight into that person's, mindset, and find out if we need to work on mindset coaching as well, which is oftentimes a big part of that. Um, and then again, I just get into the reality of it. It's not a one size fit all cookie cutter program. It's not cheap. The program is a hands-on customized training experience made for you, your needs, your goals. Why do you want to work and join the program? And we really need to make sure they know what they're getting themselves into, because there is work involved. This is not a magic pill. There's not a shortcut. There is nothing that anyone can lead you to believe will be easy for the type of results that you want, no matter what area in life is. Now, definitely with that in mind, I tell people, the reason I'm asking you these questions is that if you're not motivated to love and care for yourself, I can't do that for you. I can't make you care. So it's not my job to motivate you or to tell you, hey, you're doing, cheerlead you on, and to, make you want to care about yourself. My job is to give you the right information at the right time so you avoid mistakes, pitfalls, and errors, and you can achieve your goal in a shorter period of time than if you had to fumble through it on yourself. And then, how prepared are you financially, physically, emotionally to invest right now? Those are three areas that are super important. Um, and We also ask about your home situation. And Danny's very fortunate. He's got a very supportive wife. That's not always the case. Oftentimes, you work with a man or a woman. Sometimes they're on the same page and they're both going in the journey. But the reality is, there's oftentimes spouses or people who are living in the same house who don't share the same mindset as you. And you might want to get yourself in a better position physically, but your surrounding environment hasn't changed, right? So you're going home to, the constant smoking or drinking or food that isn't healthy for you, or the person isn't necessarily directly telling you, I don't want you to succeed, but they're constantly saying, well, why do you want to do that? That's silly and this and that. So that's something you have to take in mind too, because you're trying to do something that in that environment is contrary to the norm in your household, and that's going to make something that's hard already under good circumstances even more challenging. And we need to know that, because then we're working against that as well. And we need to give you strategies to manage that also. And then the other question is, at what point right now, are you at a point right now where you're ready to commit to changing your life for the better? Then no doubt in your mind. And I also want to know about folks' medical history. Again, I'm not a physician, so it's a good idea to get cleared by a physician anytime you're entering into any type of physical activity or hiring a coach, just to make sure there isn't any underlying disease or condition that would either prevent or limit you from doing strenuous activity. So in this case, I'm just asking, hey, have you been diagnosed now or in the past with any significant medical injuries or conditions? He says yes, and then he's got the PTSD, cervical impingement, and shoulder impingement. So when we're talking, why I need to know that is, if I had to summarize the 5 areas of what this plan entails. First of all, step one, it's a personalized approach. So we're emphasizing, the nature of the program. We're tailoring it to Danny's needs. Step two is it's going to be flexible. So it's going to be super flexible, based to accommodate his irregular work schedule and maintain consistency. And we're also looking at holistic support. So it's not just eating and working out, right? I'm listening to Danny. I'm hearing that he had PTSD. I'm hearing that he was deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. I'm listening to his why he's doing what he was doing for mental health. So it's not me just telling him lift these weights and eat this way. I want to discuss comprehensive support, including workout plans, nutrition guidance, and motivational strategies. Then we're looking at step four is progress and adaptability. So once we get everything dialed in, now I'm explaining the importance of regular progress, tracking that progress, and then adjusting as needed. And then I'm also factoring in injury management, right? So I want to reassure Danny that I've listened to what he said, and I'm taking careful consideration into his medical conditions, and I'm incorporating safe exercise modifications. So what that would look like is basically when we're talking about his flexibility and mobility, um, those types of things I'm looking at in addition to the working out, because the mobility coaching is going to help with the, I think you said cervical impingement and the shoulder. So an example there would be, I wouldn't automatically say you should do some barbell overhead presses, right? That would be very insensitive of me based on what he said to incorporate something that could hurt his shoulder into a shoulder movement. So I need to make sure before we weight anything up, we take into account the mobility and get him tuned up as best as possible. And I don't, it's not taking a step back, it's just taking a step lateral until we get that area strengthened and supported. And then we can add in more additional weights as well.
And the other things I want to chime in on the injuries, because everybody's injury is relative. Like, I get the numbing sensation down my arms and stuff like that. However, this has been, ongoing pain that I've been dealing with for decades at this point of my life, and I still push myself into these places. And I want to encourage those that may be trying to set similar goals for themselves is, don't believe the lies that you tell yourself until you test them. So, like, for me, one of the lies was that I used to believe is 155 pounds is an unobtainable goal. People can't weigh that little. Um, and so I was just like, all right, well, I believed that for a very long time, and I was very happy being a considerable amount heavier than that for a period of time. And then with this shoulder slash neck and back injury, it prevents me from sitting for long periods of time. And so I continue to do physical therapy to work through these things. I find ways to work through these conditions where people say, I'm not going to be able to do overhead activities. Well, now I'm doing pull-ups. I have to warm up adequately. I have to focus on my mobility daily. But we're able to find workarounds. And that's not necessarily your responsibility, Aleem, to help coach me through that, because you want to make sure that I'm protected. But for me, mentally, like, I have to kind of test the limits of what I am capable of doing on a regular basis.
That's awesome. And he's absolutely right. Um, I would also add, no matter what situation you have, no matter how injured or bad your particular situation is, I have never found that the best option is to do nothing. And so we also do adaptive fitness for the VA and for veterans, and we've got cases that are quite severe. And I've yet to find anyone who, no matter how bad their physical or mental um, impairment or challenges, that sitting around and waiting is a better option. Because while you're waiting for, let's say, your shoulder, your foot, or your hand, the rest of your body is atrophying. And so I would highly, highly recommend, the best time to have taken action was, last year. The next best time is today. And so that goes for anyone who might be listening or watching to this, who's been considering trying to reclaim their health, and they're thinking, well, I need to wait until X date, or I need to wait until blank, or I need to wait until this happens. I tell you what, as soon as that happens, there will be another scenario. So just take imperfect action today, immediately. It may not be pretty, but it's going to be way more beneficial than waiting. There's never an upside to waiting, and there will always be something else that comes up. And so part of living your life is, yes, there will be injuries. It's, anyone who's working out consistently, if they tell you they've never been injured or they're not injured, they're either lying or they're not working out consistently, because that's just part of it. And the goal isn't to destroy yourself once you got injured, but to then figure out, well, great, I got this injury, but two things. One, you're probably going to weather that injury better than if you were sedentary, because you're pretty good in shape. Then two, you can still do things that don't aggravate that injury and make the rest of your body and mind stronger while approaching it. And so that is the number one thing. If people are talking about what's the first thing I should do, I, I say this yesterday, I'll say it today. Start. Just start. Doesn't matter what it is. You have to start. That's the hardest thing to do. And don't even get caught up on all the details or minutia, what shoes I need to buy, what clothes I need to do, who's the best trainer, what's the best program, blah, blah, blah. Like, it literally will make you paralyzed. Call it analysis paralysis. But once you take the first thought, the first step, then step 2 will show itself, then step 3, then step 4. And just get off of the sidelines and take action today, and your tomorrow self will thank you.
So we've talked about a lot here. You've given a lot of really great advice in even just going through the uptake sheet with me, and we had a great consulting call a bit yesterday. Um, for those that are watching, for those that want to know kind of what are my goals that I have for the remainder of the year, in August, in about 6 weeks, I have a Spartan trifecta. The last time I ran a Spartan, I was about 220 pounds. It was a 5K. Part of this weight loss journey, part of the goals that I set last year was to try to run this next Spartan as light as I can to complete more obstacles, feeling better. And so I'm going to do the trifecta in August, and then I have the Marine Corps Marathon in the end of October, followed by the Honolulu Marathon beginning of December. And those are the fitness goals that I have, and I want to make sure that I'm also continuing to build my core and upper body strength while doing that. John, the Spartan event is the one out at Dillingham Ranch, and I'm going to do the trifecta, so it'll be the half marathon on Saturday, followed by the 10K Sunday morning, and then the 5K with Aleem and a team from Big Tire Boot Camp. We're doing it as a large group. We train for it weekly, and we're going to get out there and run it as a group. But so like those are my fitness goals, and so tomorrow I kind of want to start this next phase of the journey. I want to see how much weight I can drop by within the next 6 weeks. I'm currently, this morning I weighed in at 183. I had 18% body fat, and my current 5K time is 23:30. And so, I want to continue to improve my time as well as change that body composition to be a bit more lean and have my body be a bit more powerful. Oh, and I'm at 11 consecutive overhand strict pull-ups.
Nice. And the next step, which we may not get to on this call because I know we were trying to keep it to around 30 minutes, is offline. I'm going to then, so at this point, I would definitely accept a client like Danny as a client because he's ready. He's ready to go. But then the next step is then I take what he's given me and I'm putting together a 5-day program, right? So he's going to be doing 3 days resistance training, 2 days anaerobic or cardio. And he can do more cardio, like he could run every day if he wants to. So this is, again, we're here to supplement what he's already doing, not rip out what he's already doing and enjoying. So we're adding in based on what he said. So I'll be adding in a program, taking into consider all the things that he's have. I have a fitness app that he as a client would get, and I'll be programming it into the app. And that's for him to be able to check in every week so I can see his pictures and his progress, track his macro and nutrients and diet, track his water consumption, and then also he can track his workout routine. And then he and I will be communicating daily as needed through the messaging app, and then we'll have a standing connection call each week. The number one thing people hire a trainer for is for accountability. Most people know what to do, they just don't do it. So the accountability factor is every week at a certain time, he and I are going to hop on a call like this, or we're going to jump on an audio call, and we're just going to go through, hey, how was your workouts? What were some sticking points? How was your nutrition? What were some issues? What do you feel like? Oh, okay. And then we make that a real-time adjustment. And then during the week, if he gets stuck with something like, hey, he's doing an exercise and maybe the machine's broken or it doesn't feel right, he's not stuck, right? He can reach out to me. So he's like, hey, trying to do this XYZ exercise, needs some guidance. Is this right? Okay, yeah, you're good to go. Boom, keep moving forward. So at each point when a question comes up, you have a coach that can help support you along the journey. The first step is I'm going to then, for nutrition, the first week is just him logging his food. So even though it sounds like he's got it pretty dialed in, when you log anything down, you'll get about a 30% bump of improvement, no matter what it is in life, no matter how well you think you can remember it. So step one is I want to know, what are you actually eating? So either take pictures or write stuff down for a week. Don't clean up your diet if you haven't been eating right. We just want to know. There's no judgment. There's no harassment. I just need to know the facts. The first week is really getting into the swing of things as far as understanding the workouts and things of that nature. And in a perfect world, he would also have gotten some blood work from his doctor. So I want to look at your LDL, your triglycerides, your HDL, your sugar. I want to know your blood pressure, all of those things, your testosterone level, and understand where we're going with that to make sure what's the underlying components. And then we kick it off before we do nutrition in week 2 with a 24-hour fast. So I am a huge fan of fasting. It allows you to reset biosystems, clean out old decayed old decayed cells, and really reset things. I kind of like, if you just like clear it off a table by throwing everything off of the table, it resets a lot of things. So I do incorporate fasting, and I don't incorporate fasting to lose weight. Okay, you'll probably eat more food because we're going to eat whole nutritious food, not not simple carbs, and not grains, and not sugar, and not those types of things that are going to disrupt your hormones or anything like that. And so, sorry, I had a call come through. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in that situation, it's just a matter of continuing to use the things that are working and dial in a little bit more the things that are not. So that's basically what we'll be doing offline between now and our next call, just to kind of give the viewers some insight.
Yeah, I love it. Aleem, thank you so much for that. Before we end the call here, again, this is just a recap for those that are listening. This is our first consult call with Aleem Shabazz. He is the founder of Forefathers Fitness, also Strong AF, Big Tire Boot Camp out here in Hawaii. He's been a good friend, a guest of the show, 1 Mile, 1 Veteran podcast. And, he really cares about his community. He does everything he can to take care of those that he encounters, and I trust him so much to help get me to this next phase. I'm 60 pounds down right now. I've done so kind of my own knowledge. I've hit a plateau. My level of motivation has stagnated as I'm going through a major life transition, coming back to Hawaii, working a full-time job. This is just a good recap, and over the next several months, while I'm working towards several marathons this fall, as well as the Spartan Trifecta, Aleem is going to help coach me to reach some of my next goals. He's going to impart some of his knowledge and just his inadvertent motivation, because he's a motivating, positive dude, to help get me to that next step. And we're going to be doing this call weekly. So every Sunday we're going to be meeting here 3 o'clock Hawaii Standard Time. That time will shift on the East Coast and the mainland because we don't do daylight savings time, but we'll kind of give you a heads up. Hey, it's going to be 3 p.m. We'll come on a few minutes early so that you can kind of track that we're about to go live. And this is a great time for everybody to kind of ask their questions. If you feel like you've been stuck mentally, physically, whatever it is, this is a great time that I want to connect with all of you. Give you a chance to ask the questions. So many of you have seen the journey that we've taken. Those that have been here personally have witnessed me go from 240 pounds down to my current 180 and increase, and a lot of that is due to the motivation and support of my wife and a team of people like Aleem. I don't know why this one's not playing, but Aleem has helped me tremendously, and he's got a great family, a great community. He does amazing things, and sorry, I got a little distracted because he's got his kids in the background that you guys can't see. They're just getting so big. It's wild when you know somebody for so long. But Aleem, before I sign off, I appreciate that. Thank you, 13 Foxtrot. Before I say goodbye and let you go, and you can take care of the admin side of my fitness and nutrition plan, do you have a message for our audience?
Yeah, just more of the same. Now's a really great time to start. And just reassess your fitness and see where you're at, and reach out to a professional if you need some assistance. But a lot of the stuff that's the low-hanging fruit you can kind of do on your own. And I would say if you're not doing anything at this time, just start walking at least 3 days a week and just get going. And if this is something that you needed to hear from somebody, this is your call to action. So
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, the fitness journey is only a small portion of our whole health. I do fitness for my mental health. It's a great indicator of how well I'm feeling. It's a great indicator of how well my mental health is actually doing. When I'm being consistent and have some discipline in my life, I know that my mental health is on a bit of a better track. If you need some motivation getting started, go check out the 1 Mile, One Veteran podcast. Start with a mile a day. Like, just commit to walking 20 minutes a day. That's where I started this journey last August. Um, and it really helped just kind of instill in me the ability to just continue to push forward. The mindset was always there that I didn't want to be stuck in my diseases and injuries. Yeah, talking to the guests that we have on the 1 Mile, One Veteran podcast and meeting with members of the community as we travel throughout the states and the rest of the world has really helped me get to where I'm at right now. I'm feeling really good. I want to take you guys on the rest of this journey. Sorry I didn't do as great a job documenting the first half of it, but Liam and I are here to document the second half. So please follow along. Check out Big Tire Boot Camp on Instagram. He's constantly posting the amazing community activities that he's going out there. They're going to have some major announcements that hopefully we'll be able to dig into throughout this series. You can always join me on a mile if you're out here on Oahu, or if you ever find out that we're coming to your area, hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is, or shoot me a text if you got my number. And I'd love to walk a mile with you and chat and see where your headspace is at. Again, thank you all so much for being a part of my journey and supporting the 1 Mile, One Veteran podcast. And I'm going to figure out how to end this from here. Thank you all.